Most investors ultimately only look at Bitcoin or Ethereum, but meanwhile, a completely new market is emerging in the background. A market that could be worth trillions. And if you ignore this sector, you might miss out on one of the next big growth phases. Welcome to your channel for honest and data-driven investment analyses. Today we're taking a look at the Plume Network. Plume is its own blockchain. It was ultimately built specifically to bring real assets onto the blockchain. So it's extremely exciting because Blackrock is working on this. In other words, bringing things from the real world, like loans, energy projects, solar plants, or even company shares onto the blockchain. Technically, Plume is a so-called Layer 1 blockchain. That means it's not an add-on to another blockchain, but rather it forms its own foundation. Plume is compatible with Ethereum. That's obviously important. This means that many well-known crypto applications can ultimately run on it as well, without complicated adjustments. The central problem that Plume solves is simple. It aims to make real assets, which are otherwise hard to trade, slow, expensive, and often only accessible to large investors, available to everyone. In essence, they turn these into digital tokens. These tokens can then be used directly worldwide around the clock. What makes Plume special is its focus on regulations and security. Plume was essentially built from the ground up so that regulations can be complied with. For example, identities, access rights, but also transparency. This is ultimately crucial if large companies or funds are to participate. Additionally, Plume has its own system for yields. So this means that the tokenized assets also generate ongoing income, and not through speculation, but through real economic activity. In short, Plume ultimately wants to be a bridge between the traditional financial system and the crypto world. In other words, real assets on the blockchain usable like a regular coin. And that's exactly why this sector is so incredibly exciting right now. But a quick disclaimer, my channel is not financial advice, it's purely for informational purposes. Many investors put money in, but hardly make any financial progress, because wages rise slowly, inflation moves faster, and investing often feels like gambling. I know exactly how that feels. That's exactly why I developed a simple but effective system, completely data-driven and emotion-free with my 10x formula and a clear master plan. A plan that can be applied in both bull and bear markets. That's often where the biggest opportunities lie. In the 10x Elite, you get this master plan in full. You get my complete investment plan through 2030 and beyond. But what exactly do you get now, and how does it help you? First, you get my latest penny stock analyses and hidden gems among altcoins from the low cap sector. So exciting opportunities analyzed based on data with a percentage score at the end. This way, you save time and benefit from my research work. Then secondly, data-driven ranking lists, where I compare all analyses in a ranking, so altcoins, but also stocks, rated in percentages with a clear ranking. No opinions, just data. This gives you a clear comparison to see where the real potential lies. Then thirdly, I keep you regularly informed about the market, without hype, without panic, but with clear context. This way, you stay well informed about the market without having to invest a lot of time yourself and without having to listen to all that hype. Fourth, you get access to my 10x indicator. This is the core of my data-driven approach. The indicator displays the trading view directly on the chart for Bitcoin, altcoins, stocks, but also commodities, showing bearish and bullish trend reversals as well as interesting overbought and oversold zones. This way, I can immediately spot data-driven opportunities in the market and I'm not operating blindly. And fifth, you also get insight into my portfolio, completely transparent as inspiration for you. Sixth, in addition, there are also concrete dollar cost averaging analyses aimed at achieving the best average price, as well as structured trading setups. Long, short, all data-driven. And eighth, the 10x Academy, where you ultimately learn how to proceed based on data, how to analyze, how to spot opportunities, and how to understand analyses. So if you want to move away from speculation toward a clear data-driven system, you'll find 10x Elite in the video description below. It's the very first link. And now let's get back to the video. Let's move on to the first point, market capitalization. Plume is currently a small to mid-sized altcoin. Its valuation is a little over 100 million US dollars. This is important to understand, considering the growth phase it's currently in. Especially in the early stages, growth is naturally much more pronounced than, for example, with Bitcoin. So Plume is no longer a microcoin, but at the same time, it's also not an extremely large coin. This is a good thing to note because it offers a solid growth opportunity. Next, key figure 2, the circulating tokens. 48% of all tokens are already in circulation. That's more than with other projects. This definitely means that they are well positioned here, because there won't be any extreme surprises or a huge number of coins suddenly entering the market. Here, a good and solid 7. Key figure 3, the roadmap. Plume has a clear roadmap. It's not full of buzzwords, but instead contains concrete goals, which is extremely important. In other words, more real assets, more users, more partners. Many points have already been implemented, so they are reliable. Not just promises, but they have actually delivered. A strong 9 in this area. Next, the team. The team comes from the crypto, finance, and regulatory sectors. So there are no anonymous profiles and no just marketing people, but individuals who really know what they're doing and of course how to work with major partners. Here, a strong 8. Next, key metric 5, the narrative. The narrative is clear, real assets on the blockchain. It's not a short-term trend, but a topic that can grow over years. It's especially exciting, of course, for institutional capital. A strong 9. Then, key metric 6, the problem. What problem are they solving? Well, the problem is simple. Real assets are hard to access. In addition, they're slow, expensive, and often only accessible to a few. But Plume makes them tradable digitally, divisible, and usable globally. A strong 9 in this area. Then key metric number 7, sustainability. Plume uses its own efficient system, not energy-intensive mining, and at the same time, even directly supports renewable projects. That fits a long-term orientation. Strong 8. Then, key metric 8, investors and capital. Plume is supported by well-known names. Large funds, experienced investors. Of course, they bring money, but above all, they bring trust, and that's exactly what this sector needs as well. A rating of 9 here. Key metric 9 is the competition. But first, if you want to get to know Plume's competition, my analyses, my price scenarios, then definitely check out the 10 times universe. That's a playlist. Extremely exciting. Down below in the video description, or just click up there. In this area, a solid 8, because they are strong compared to the competition. Then point 10, marketing. They focus on real partnerships, community events, and in the end, there's no hype, but rather a constant visibility, which is important. Here, a solid 8. Key metric 11, the simplicity of the idea. The basic idea is ultimately easy to understand. Real assets on the blockchain. Of course, the technology is already complex, but in the end, the user promise is, I think, clear. Here, a strong 9, then key metric 12. What is the long-term vision? Plume ultimately doesn't think in months, but in years. So the focus here is really on the global market for real-world assets. That is definitely ambitious, but still realistic. Here, a strong 9. Key metric 13, the token structure. The maximum supply is fixed. So there is no endless inflation here, nor ultimately any active burning, but of course the token is clearly used. That's why only a 7 here, then the FDV ratio. The total valuation is only slightly above the current valuation. That's rather rare, and it's a good sign for the risk-reward ratio. A strong 9 here, then key metric 15, trading volume. Plume is actively traded, not just held. That definitely shows on the one hand interest, but of course movement is also good for liquidity, though it comes with increased volatility naturally. A solid 9 here, then key metric 16. How does it look in terms of distribution and lockup periods? The tokens aren't perfectly distributed, but they're fair enough for this stage of the project, I'd say, still within a good range. What's important though is that the rules are transparent. A solid 7 here, then 17. What about large wallets? There are larger holders, unfortunately, but there's no extreme concentration. No single actor controls the project. The solid 7 here, then key metric 18. What is actually the use of the token? The token / coin is used for fees for voting and for earnings. So it's not just a decorative coin. A solid 9 here. Then key metric 19, the community. The community is growing quickly. Lots of active users, lots of real discussions, which is of course important. My question to you, do you already know Plume? Are you invested? Go ahead and write it in the comments so more people become aware of videos like this and of the coin, because it's extremely exciting. A strong 9 here, then key metric 20. What about upcoming events? Because the next few months are crucial. New assets, new partnerships, further technical steps. At least there's no standstill here. A solid 8. With 83.2%, they are quite strong on my 10 times ranking list, already in the upper midfield. Plume stands out here especially due to its clear focus on real-world assets on the blockchain. The technology is specifically designed to make real digital assets usable. So it's not just a gimmick, but already an infrastructure for the next crypto cycle in 2028, 2029, 2030. But now let's move on to the chart analysis. Let's take a look. What does Plume look like right now? When would I personally get in? What does my own indicator actually say? Yes, hello and welcome to the chart analysis and at the same time to the price scenarios for Plume. First of all, at the beginning I used TradingView and a custom developed indicator. So what does it look like at the moment? Let's start with the bear scenario first. That would be in the 1 cent range. As you can see, that would be even lower than now. Of course, it could go even lower. But for now, that's just one scenario. That would mean we go down here. In the normal scenario, it would be 5 cents. So that's already a significant increase. Well, let's take a look. If you assume from this point forward, that would actually be an increase of about 340%. And then we have the optimistic scenario. That's much higher up, as you can see. Again, roughly from now, there, bam. That would already be 1600% in the optimistic scenario. There are even more scenarios. Let's look further up. The extremely optimistic one would be at $1 and the Vision 2030 would be at $5. So that would really be extreme if it could explode like that by 2030. But what does it look like right now? At the moment, we've been sold off extremely hard here. You really have to say that. Right now, all altcoins are extremely weak and the bear market could also be here, so the altcoin season might not come back as strong. So maybe not until 2030 then. In any case, at the moment it looks like we've already had several bottom formations here in quotation marks. My indicator has already shown this 3 times so far. Here and now here as well. So purely from a data perspective, we've definitely entered the oversold zone. That means a lot of people have sold. Yes, and we were in the oversold area, as you can see here. We actually did go up a bit after that, if you take this low point here. Boom, went up a little bit. It was about 26%. But you still have to be careful with altcoins at the moment. I would rather position myself for 2030, keep analyzing altcoins, and then gradually buy those with real fundamentals during the bear market. If you want to know when I get into altcoins, or if you want to see more altcoin analyses or use the 10x indicator yourself, then check out the link below. There's something for the 10x Elite, but ultimately also for the 10x indicator. If you're interested in other altcoins right now, I have another exciting analysis for you. Definitely take a look at it. You shouldn't miss it. Thanks for watching and see you soon.